greet you with Jesus' joy, for it is in him that I live, breathe, move, and have my very being. I am so happy that you joined Unbox on Purpose today because we are a podcast created for Favored by the Father Ministries. I am Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon, your host. Our guests share how they stepped outside of dark places in their lives, stepped outside of comfort zones, stepped outside of boxes that may have confined them into a place where they knew they should really be, a place of authentic identity. We share experiences that lead to the fulfillment of purpose. So I pray that each episode will also help our audience to access their authentic destiny as they resonate with the stories and the sharing that our guests will have on this platform. We have with us today Sandra Smith, who will discuss Besties in the Battle. Hey, Sandra.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm just tickled that you're here. We'll get back to you after I do a little bit more of an introduction. Sandra M. Smith is an educator with experience in the areas of exceptional education and school counseling. She is a graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University in her hometown, Richmond, Virginia. VCU is where she met her bestie, Regina Blagman. Sandra is a neuroendocrine cancer survivor who wants to help others make the most beneficial moves toward winning against cancer and other serious diseases. Sandra founded the Regina Blagman Memorial Scholarship with financial support from the Blagman family and contributors. She serves as a minister at the Children of God Victory Tabernacle. She lives in Chesterfield, Virginia, Chesterfield County, Virginia, with her husband and children. She loves watching documentaries and cooking at home in her kitchen. Her most recent interest is crocheting. Besties in the Battle is Sandra's first book. And so you can see that is why we entitled our show for today, Besties in the Battle. Sandra M. Smith, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
I want you to just go ahead and start this conversation off by helping the audience connect with who it is that we are to each other, and in your own way, share how we connected initially.
So a little over, or not even a year ago, I guess, I went to volunteer for the Baptist General Convention. Uh, this is something that I didn't have any experience with. I think I might have heard about it, but it was not an environment I had been in. And there were a few people who had books. There were like authors with their books out, and I was just browsing around, waiting on my next assignment. And I came across one of your books, and I was reading, just trying to see what it was like to have all the different parts of the book and how authors kind of put stuff together. And I saw something about Tappahannock, I believe, or either Essex. And I was like, oh, that's where my bestie's from. And by this point, my bestie had passed away. So I was just looking and reading, and you weren't out there at that time. So I had left, came
Right.
back, did some other stuff. And then someone was like, oh, here she comes, because somebody else saw me looking at it. It was like, there she is, you can go over there. And I knew I was going to get a book signed. So I came over and I was talking to you about signing the book. And, you know, I had a friend who had just passed away who was from Tappahannock, and she worked in the high school and all this. And I'm just thinking I'm just venting and talking, you know, just trying to keep my spirits up.
Right.
And you were like, Regina. And I was like, oh, how did you know? And then you told me that you knew her from where you all were working. And I was like, wow, that was just a very God ordained moment. I mean, all the time that I've known Regina, it's always been that Tappahannock is small, and every time she's walking around, she sees 2 and 3 people she knows. So I just didn't expect that to happen to me, but that was how I first came to know who you were. And you told me when I was telling you what I was doing, you said, write the book. And you said, you need to give yourself a date. And I was like, I don't even know this lady, but I'm going to write this book and I'm going to give myself a date. And that's what I did. I went home and I told a few people and I gave myself a date. I knew November would be coming, and November was Regina's birthday and Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, which was the type of cancer that Regina had. So I was like, okay, I got to be ready in November. And I just started writing as soon as I got home.
Your story resonated in my spirit for various reasons. And I wanted to really pour this out because what you have already shared is already the title of the show called Unboxed on Purpose. Talk about a time when you stepped outside of your comfort zone. What you have already shared is exactly that. Because I remember you saying, of course, you were grieving, you were deeply grieving. And I could see that, oh, I wanted to, we were going to write this book together, is what
Right.
you told me. And I said, write the book, because you're writing it in honor of, in memory of. And I don't think that she would want you, because I did know her.
Right.
I don't think that she would be satisfied with you not pursuing it and getting it done. And they've heard what you had to say. But I'm hoping that what we're talking about will also bless the Blagman family and friends of Tappahannock in particular, because this is fresh. It hasn't been that long.
It's
It,
coming on 1 year.
it kind of feels like yesterday. It hasn't
Yeah.
been that long.
It's
Now, in
really not bad.
connection for the Blagman family, Regina and I were working together at Essex High School when I ran the alternative program there. And her door to her spot and mine were on the same hall within a few feet away. We had lunch together every day. And so we were lunch buddies. So she and I shared whatever we shared at the lunch table because nobody else was in the room at the time. And so as you shared those initial thoughts that you did, of course, I did have a lot of recollection of conversations that she and I had, which is why I could come out with knowing that she had just passed away. It was like, that's got to be Regina. And so here we are today. And so as you reflect on the things that we've shared in the most immediate time where we're talking about you and your bestie, reflect all the way back in your life as to a passion that you had in life early on. Where did you live? We said you grew up in Richmond, what have you. But whatever you want to share about who you are as an individual person, going back to your childhood and spewing into how you have allowed that passion, even from childhood, to spew into who you have become. You can take it in any direction while I sit backstage and let you have open mic.
Okay. So I was raised in Richmond, on the south side of Richmond. Um, I think most people considered my family to be fairly wealthy, at least relatively speaking, compared to the people who we were around. That was an issue that came up for me and for my sister going to school and things like that. But as a kid, that's not something that you really understand. But I did leave my very local area to go to what they considered a model school. I went to school in the West End, across town, still a public school, but yes, it was different. The school that I started in was a predominantly Black school, lots more people who were lower income. And when I made it to the school around third grade, I was in school in the West End, and there were all kinds of cultures. Like, people say Black, white, yellow, like it was like that going to school. There were students who were in wheelchairs or had walking sticks because of their visual impairments, like stuff like that I had not seen in the school I was in. My other school just didn't have that kind of diversity. And I think that helped me to become who I ended up being, like going to VCU as opposed to, let's say, a historically Black school. I just had a lot of experience with people who were of different cultures and who had different faiths. And that's a lot of who I am today. I think that helped me to become a very tolerant person. But even in the elementary years, my mom took me to the library a lot, in the public library. And I was always checking out books and reading about things and, all the pictures and stuff that you get from the library. That's just not a part of your everyday life. It helps you to kind of stay creative. And in school, I remember the librarian, I would walk and read. And she would say these phrases, like I can still remember she would say, "Don't walk and read because the dragons will nibble your toes." Don't know if that was her thing or if that's in a book somewhere that I haven't come across. But books were always a thing for me. I can remember stapling papers together and making books and, just writing. That was always a thing, and journaling. That has been a part of me since I was really young. And I just kind of kept doing that. And I did, even before Besties in the Battle, I did want to write a book. I wanted to write a children's book. And I just had not thought far into it to do it. But I wanted to write a children's book, basically about going into school and the nervousness of a student that would be starting like kindergarten. That was what it was. But I've always been interested in education and working with the schools and students. But then I eventually transitioned into school counseling and working with students from, I would call that kind of the behind the scenes part, because students come to school with a lot of issues that they have at home, that they have in their neighborhoods. And I felt like you needed to be prepared for your school day. So when I was getting students who had these other issues that I couldn't really address because we have to tend to the things that we're supposed to be dealing with in the classroom, that's when I started to shift and think I should go back and figure out school counseling so I can help students from that aspect. So that's what I did. And I got to do that. That's a whole different testimony in itself. But I got to do that for about 4 years when I actually started working as a school counselor. And I'm thankful for that opportunity. And today, in the situation I'm in, I'm not working, but I have found volunteer areas that allow me to still be helpful. I still work with students in the public school as a mentor. And I also volunteer with another ministry that serves people with issues with homelessness or poverty. Um, and that's kind of how I keep myself full on doing things that I feel like I should be doing with my hands. So I think that's just, yeah, all a part of me growing up the way I did. That's kind of what led me to where I am.
To where you are, you're talking about doing things with your hands. And I know in the bio there was a thing about crocheting and that sort of thing. But I think because of your background and because of your current situation, it may be helpful to help the audience to understand why it is that you're not working right now.
Oh, yeah. So in 2020, I had a very, very bad pain in my abdomen. Didn't know what it was. I had not been sick or felt sick or anything like that. This was Father's Day of 2020. We're just relaxing at home. Uh, and my son fell on me. I think he was playing with a ball or something, which would be normal. We wrestled and tussled and stuff, but it hurt so bad. And it like changed the mood for everybody. And I just kind of kept putting it off and kept thinking, this pain will go away. And I didn't even realize I had started to like hunch over and lay in the floor. And then I started getting sick and I had to kept going to the bathroom. And I ended up going to like an urgent care place thinking, this was just something simple. They'd tell me to take something or whatever. The urgent care couldn't help me. They felt like I needed some type of x-ray that they didn't do. So they sent me to the emergency room. Again, this was a Sunday evening. I went to the emergency room during COVID. So I had to sit in there by myself. And at that time, I was texting Regina. She was praying for me and sending me prayers, and just didn't know what was going on. Just knew I had this pain. I thought like maybe it was my appendix or something. So they did all the scans and x-rays and drew blood and all this stuff. And the doctor came into the room that she finally had put me in, and my husband got to come in. And she came and she kind of asked for like, so how you get here again? Tell me that again. And in telling her all that, I don't know, I guess that's just what she wanted to hear, because she immediately just said, so you have ovarian cancer. Like nothing else to it. That was just the ball she dropped. And then she kind of was like, you're going to need to go see an oncologist, and I'm going to give you a few minutes with your husband. And she left us there in a very, very shocked state. So I grabbed my husband immediately and we prayed. And I thought to call my pastor and first lady, and they prayed, and we just, picked it up from there. And it went 4 years, literally 4 years, before I knew what I actually was dealing with. I had the surgery for the ovarian cancer, but then I found out that I had a lung mass or lung tumor. And after that, within a couple of years, I had a brain tumor. And a year after that, I had another brain tumor. So all these tumors actually was what was known as the neuroendocrine cancer, or neuroendocrine tumors, which is a slow growing situation that's a little bit different from like when you talk about breast cancer or something like that. So I didn't actually have ovarian cancer. It's just that the neuroendocrine tumors kind of go where they want, and they could end up in whatever organ they end up in. And at the point of me catching on to this, I ended up with 4, and I had to have the 4 separate surgeries.
You have quite a story to share. And sometimes we deal with pains and don't see about them. And here I am speaking to myself as well as I say this. And there are situations that I need to be in control of by getting the medical help that I need.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we're talking about stepping outside of a box. This happened to you over a period of time where your bestie was dealing with something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, in the midst of it all, the two of you were talking about writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
Would you talk a little bit about how, in the midst of that situation that the two of you shared, you discussed this book? And now that you've actually put it out, and I know our viewers are going to receive that, what is it that inspired that book?
So I guess maybe like 2 years after I started dealing with cancer, what I considered ovarian cancer at that point, and then it didn't make sense because I had the lung issue. Somewhere in there, Regina was having some physical discomfort. Her abdomen was hurting. She was having issues with her stomach, and she felt issues with digestion and things like that. So she was talking to like the GI doctors, and going back and forth. She had lots of different appointments and hearing lots of different things. Similarly, like I was told one thing and it actually was something else. We were going through things like that. But at one point, you could like physically tell that something was wrong. Like her stomach was bigger and harder in some places. And it was like, well, what is this? We just looking at her, you could see something was different. And she would talk about how much discomfort she'd be in and how she couldn't eat foods like she used to and things like that. So eventually, again, same thing for her after seeing an oncologist and stuff, it was determined that this was pancreatic cancer. But like I said, leading up to it, it was pancreatitis, or, they were attributed to diabetes or other things that turned out to not really be what the situation was. Um, so that was a very hard moment, to face. It was one thing to deal with my own issue, but then it was like, Regina has to deal with this issue, and she hasn't done anything. What was it's kind of a, what did we do to deserve this thing? And I have a friend. I have Regina's my bestie, and I have another group of friends I call my peeps. One of my peeps was like, "You're asking why is this happening, but you should be asking why not. You know, this could happen to anybody, and why not you? You who are a child of God, who has the faith to go through a tough thing." And definitely, I felt if that was my situation, it was for Regina also, because Regina was also a person of faith. So we started to talk about it, and trying to sort things out in our head. And it took us back to a lot of stuff that I mentioned in my book. It was like, man, we've done all these things alike. Like we are the babies of the family, and we went to BCU, and we became teachers, and all the things that we've done in common. And then this was another thing that we've done in common. It was like, and now we both have cancer. How do we both have cancer? All the people that could have cancer. Like, it was just unreal. But at this point, we literally were just talking about it like I'm saying it now. And it was like, man, we should write a book. We could write a book. And we laughed it off, which we've done this several times throughout our friendship. And then it was like, what will we call it? And I kept thinking about being her bestie, and she calling me her bestie. And I was like, "Oh, we could be besties in the battle." We call it besties in the battle because we both have this battle of cancer. And I believe before that, Regina had decided that she was going to fight. And I was like, "Well, if you show up fighting, then I'm fighting with you." I said, "That's the way you're going to come at this, then that's what we're going to do." I said, "So if we're fighting, we fighting together." And that's how it was. I would call her, and it wasn't a good day, and then you just would offer a prayer or talk about something unrelated. Um, and the same thing for me. I had days I felt like I told her I was falling from the sky, and there was no one to catch me. And I said, I'm expecting you to catch me. And I was like, I don't know how or what, but I feel like you're the only person I can call. And we both were ministers. And I had a thing about showing myself a certain way as a minister. I didn't want to seem weak, or like because I was going through something, I couldn't handle it, which I don't think was my situation, but I needed someone to support me in keeping me on my feet. And for me, that was Regina. So again, it was mainly that she would pray. It wasn't that she had the answers for the particular cancer, or that she could say, well, I did this for my cancer. It was the spiritual aspect of somebody understanding that I was in a deep place of hurt, of not being sure, and I needed to be covered. And that was all I really was requesting from her. And every time I called her and every time I asked her, she would pray for me. And when I had doctor's visits, if she knew about them, she would leave me a voice message that would be like a prayer. So that was what I needed. So those were the kind of things that kind of got me to us being besties in the battle, because we were going through this thing, even though different, we were going through this thing as besties. That's where it kind of came from.
And you still are, and you always will be besties. And
Besties.
so behind you is the besties in the battle. And I want you to go ahead and share with the audience how they can get a hold of that book. And we'll also share that on the screen, because this is a pre-recorded. We'll be able to flash that up there. How can they get a hold of your book and get a hold of you?
So this is my book, like you see behind me. Oh, can you see it? Where'd it go?
It's okay. We'll flash it up too.
This is the book, Besties in the Battle. Um, Cancer and Friendship Colliding is kind of what I saw in my head when I thought about it. Um, You can get the book on Amazon or on Barnes and Noble. And if you are close by to me, I'll be happy to meet you somewhere and give you the copy in person where you can have it signed. But again, I'm in the Chesterfield area.
If you would take a look at her name signature under where she's typed that in, you can also reach out to her with her email address if you would like for Sandra Smith to come and do a book talk. She's a public speaker, she's a preacher, she's a minister. She does what she does for the Lord. And so if you want her to talk to your group about what have you, reach out to her. I'm going to pause right there. She didn't know I was going to give that plug, but would you say a little bit of something about that surprise I just threw out there?
Yes, that would be great. A part of the vision when Regina and I were talking about the book or dreaming about the book was that we would go as besties to talk to other sister friends, to talk to other girls who were close to each other, to talk to other people who were dealing with cancer or some other terminal disease or something, that just was severe, that sometimes life just deals you a really hard blow. We wanted to do that. We wanted to use money from whatever we did to give back to schools or to give back to women so that we could just continue to minister. That was kind of the goal. So I am excited that I have this opportunity, and others who are, again, like from churches and other I think this particular place is specifically for cancer patients. There's different types of things in the area that are offered as services, but some people have talked to me about coming to speak to their groups and discussing it. I've also had an interest from a woman who does like a book club. So that's going to be different. I would have never thought, oh, we put your book in a book club. So that's pretty cool. So it's different avenues and that I haven't even really thought of. It's an exceeding abundantly type of blessing, but I am excited to talk about it. I talked to some of the people at the oncologist office where I go, who are the nurses or the counselors, and everybody's perspectives are different and they know different things and stuff that I wouldn't have known without having those conversations. So all this for me is still helpful. It's helping me to heal as far as not having Regina here with me. And it's also educating me on how other people are dealing with their particular diseases or even handling their faith with life. You want to be faithful, but sometimes you get things that you're just not prepared for. And in my perspective, that doesn't mean you get rid of your faith. This is when you start to work the muscle and make it more than what it was. So I'm grateful if I get to offer that kind of conversation and minister to somebody who might be at a broken place. And I'm also grateful for the education that comes out of it, because I always say you want to remain teachable. So that allows me to keep being teachable.
You have so much in you to share. And so, open mic again. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that you want us to know about you, about your work, what's next on the horizon for you? And I dare to say that, as I said to you before, if you still had Regina in the physical with you, you would be doing these things together. What is it that's on the horizon? All of that, any of that, open mic, go for it.
So on the horizon, personally, after all I went through with the tumors and the surgeries and everything, I came across this chaplain. I call him Chaplain Larry. He was in the hospital when he was in the emergency room where I went and found out about my first tumor. And then when I had the surgery, which was a couple of weeks later, he was at that particular hospital. Two very different places, a good 30 minutes apart. I don't know him. He didn't know me, but he was at both of those places. So my experience with chaplains, when he came in and I was having this pain in my head, and I didn't even know at the time what it was, he was like, I just came by to say hi and, offer a prayer and all this. And I was like, I must be dying. Why would this man come here? Why would the chaplain come to the emergency room? I was very, very scared. But he did what he said he would do, and he didn't say anything additional. He didn't give us any contact information, and he left. And then when I get to the next situation where I'm having the surgery, I was on my way home, and my husband went downstairs, and the particular chaplain was there. He was like, hey, my wife is here. We get ready to go home. She had her surgery a couple of days ago. And the man came upstairs to see me. And he was like, I'll tell you, I was really concerned. I went home and my wife and I prayed for you at our kitchen table. And that was just a lot for me. I just couldn't believe that he remembered the situation and that he actually took this situation home to his personal prayer life. So that was just amazing. I couldn't even think of the words for it. But before all this happened with Chaplain Larry, I would see in my dreams me walking through these hallways that had very colorful bluish green walls. Right now, I think it's like a rainforest. It was drawn like murals on the walls. So I kept saying, God wants me to pray for children, but these are sick children. And I kept thinking like cancer patients, like, they're in the hospital and they can't get out, but it's only the children because these walls are so decorated. And I told Chaplain Larry about that. And he shared all the information he had about resources on becoming a chaplain. At the time, I didn't know that chaplaincy was a thing where you were paid like a career job, like I was doing in education. And at this point, I was out of work because of all the different things that had been going on. So I decided to go back to school for chaplaincy. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to Shaw University virtually to become a chaplain. And I'm still not certain about the children's hospital part of it, but I get excited when I get close to them. I've been to the one in our area at VCU. I was looking for the rainforest murals on the walls. Didn't see it yet, but that's kind of my thing. I'm like trying to find out, where is God taking me? So I've been following that path. Excited to learn. And again, in chaplaincy, it's not necessarily going to be Christians that I come in contact with. I'll have to deal with anybody's faith, anybody who might be atheist, whatever the case may be, but I still have to know how to serve these people through a manner of faith. So that's kind of where I am now. Regina, again, I believe, aside from family members, the longest friendship I had. And a part of that for me now, when you talk about your unboxing, was I had to really consider the friendships. I had to think about how I was behaving as a friend. I got to a place where I decided I wanted to expand like my social group. So Regina was already doing her sorority, and I was looking into a sorority, which now I'm a part of. And I get to still be around women who I feel are similar in their personalities to me. Not exactly who I am, but we want to serve the community. We want to help. We're women of faith. So I found more people to engage with on that level. And it's not a replace Regina kind of thing,
Right.
but it's me understanding that, I got this Regina and I'm holding, but there's other things that I can be a part of. And it's not to say, oh, this person is not like Regina. Oh, this group doesn't do like me and Regina would do. That's not what it is.
Right.
But it is me still living life because I'm still here. And I can't just do nothing because it's different without Regina. Even for, like you said, for the Blagmans not having their baby sister, or the people who are used to her at school. I've seen some of her students over the past few months. We have to know how to keep moving. And it doesn't take away that this person was a part of you or is a part of you. When I have to talk about the book, when I have to read things in the book, I couldn't have did it if it wasn't for Regina. So it's not that I'm moving on and leaving her somewhere.
No.
But, I guess everybody has to kind of come to terms with that. But yes, as a part of this, I'm gaining more friendships, and I'm paying attention to how I treat the women that I consider friends.
You have dropped some powerful nuggets, and I actually just heard you go back to your childhood when I heard you talk about the diversity
Yeah.
that you experienced as a child going to school, and don't have to do that again. But it's even in where you're going with your chaplaincy.
Right.
And I know that God preordained every single thing for
Yeah.
your purpose. And that's what this is, an Unboxed on Purpose podcast. The battle is real. Besties in the battle. Based on Sandra's experiences, I believe that our listeners can resonate with the circumstances that they face. I believe that they can better address challenges that have come and blindsided them, and maybe now have them stuck in a box. But because they tapped in to this particular episode, they don't feel that they have to remain stuck in that box. Any concluding words you want to share about that or anything else?
I think that's exactly how I got to this place. I did go through a depression after, even before Regina had passed away, just kind of coming to terms with this is what's happening to us. Like, you just had never thought that we'd be in this situation. So it hurt, and it did take me to what I called a dark place. Like, I only saw dark, I only saw concrete, but I just knew, again, with my faith, I couldn't stay in that place. And I was praying, even though all I could see was the concrete, dark situation. I just kept praying. And I mean, this took a couple of months before the concrete lifted, before I could see, let's say, grass or,
Yeah.
any kind of light. It was just a different place that I was coming from, and I had to get back out of it. So I would say, whatever your situation is, um, it's a blessing if it's not something as difficult as a grief situation. But if you are seeing, let's say, the brick wall, you're seeing the concrete and the darkness, you just have to hold on to your faith. I
Mm-hmm.
would hope that your faith is in God, and you can know that you're praying to Him. In the book, I talk about God being sovereign. So wherever it is that He has to take you, whatever it is that you have to go through, yes, you might have to go through some stuff, and we're not going to always like what we're going through. But because of my faith in God, because I trusted Him to be sovereign, I believe that's how I got out of that situation. My pastor preached not too long ago. I used this the other day too, that something good is going to come out of this. He was talking about the Hebrew boys in the fiery furnace. Well, that's the situation I'm in now. I wouldn't have wanted this to be the case, but the something good that has come out of this is that I am moving forward with things that I thought I could do, but I had never touched. I'm moving forward with being in the ministry to other people who might have illnesses or might be dealing with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a part of my purpose as well.
Wow.
I wouldn't have set it up to be so that I had to lose my best friend, but something good is going to come out of everything. Even when you lose someone very close to you, when you lose a job, which I had to go through that, when you lose your health in a certain aspect,
Mm-hmm.
there's always something good that can come out of whatever your situation is. So I would encourage anybody to know you're here, but that's not where you're going to stay.
Ha. That is a very precious nugget you deposited into our spirits today. Sandra M. Smith, thank you, because I know you are unboxed on purpose, and you have encouraged others to step outside of the box on purpose. Anything else before I give my closing?
That's it. I thank you so much for the opportunity. When I met you, I didn't know that this was something that would happen either.
Absolutely. And nor did I. I
Yeah,
received that text message where you were telling me that you did the book and it had been months.
yeah, yeah.
When I got the text, it was like, I know exactly who that is. She
Oh,
did it.
yeah.
Wow, this is great. And so I reached out and invited you on this show, and here we are. And God is so wonderful to all of us.
Awesome.
And so I turn to the audience right now and say that if you want to be a guest on Unboxed on Purpose, go to our website, click Contact Us, Favored by the Father Ministries, and we'll schedule a time to talk about it. This podcast is designed with you in mind. So help us to continue to thrive in 2025. Leave your name, your email address, unboxed for your subject, and briefly tell why you want to be on the show. It's for anybody, everybody who has a story that will resonate with others, stepping outside of a dark place, stepping outside of a comfort zone, and pursuing ultimate purpose and destiny. And so I want you to join us every week. We normally release our episodes on Thursdays, Unboxed on Purpose, with refreshing conversations, sharing experiences that not only shape our future, but also our right now. We post regularly on Favored by the Father YouTube channel, the Facebook page, LinkedIn, and most podcast platforms. So, as we evolve, we are like butterflies coming out of a box that allows the Holy Spirit to advance us to immeasurable, lofty levels in the Lord. We want you to fulfill your purpose. We want you to bloom wherever you're planted and grow your intimacy with the Lord. And we want you to remain favored by the Father. Hope to see you next week. May the Lord bless you real good as you grow in grace.